Rebecca is a good friend and a good influence. She is the creator behind A Humble Place with a website and an Instagram, both by that name, where I first found her when I was looking for Charlotte Mason art studies. And I got many of her beautiful sets, which we love. In this episode, though, she is coming to teach me about her meal planning strategies. I am now using her method, and it is revolutionizing everything that I am doing. I am so grateful to Rebecca for joining me today to discuss this because I am not by nature a meal planner. But with a very busy summer coming up, I need to have some good frameworks in place to rely on for meal planning, having others being able to participate in the food preparation, being able to know what is coming down the pipeline. And it was really interesting to me how her meal planning works with an ancestral and seasonal food lifestyle, which is the way she and her family eat. So many meal planning ideas and options out there assume you're going to be going to the grocery store every couple of days and buying a lot of convenience or unseasonal foods, which just doesn't suit the way a lot of us are eating. Thank you, Rebecca, for opening up a whole new world to me. I am so excited to share this episode with you today. Enjoy. Welcome to the Ancestral Kitchen Podcast with Allison, a European town dweller in central Italy, and Andrea, living on a newly created family farm in Northwest Washington State, USA. Pull up a chair at the table and join us as we talk about eating, cooking, and living with ancient ancestral food wisdom in a modern world kitchen. Hello, everyone. I am here not with Allison today, but with a good friend, a listener of the podcast, a patron. Welcome, Rebecca.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining me because I've just been wanting to pick your brain on this for like ever. Very excited about what we're going to talk about. So let me introduce you to the people. Rebecca is, as I said, a podcast listener and also patron, and you've become such a good friend, Rebecca. We've had some very long,
well, you've become a good friend
very
too.
long text conversations. You're the creator of ahumbleplace.com, and you're on Instagram with the same name. And I actually added this to my notes because I love it so much. You got that phrase, a humble place, from a quote from, I don't know, how do you say this? Camille Pizarro? Yes. Blessed are they who see beautiful things in humble places where other people see nothing. I love that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, me too.
You make amazing home education resources and art studies. That's actually how I met you. I think maybe Anna Vance had posted about you or something. And I started getting your art prints, and then I started getting more of them. And now we just love them, your art studies. So if anybody listening has their kombucha handy, take a shot because I'm going to say her name, Charlotte Mason. We use Charlotte Mason type education philosophy, and you produce resources that fit that educational philosophy. So I know also many of our patrons and listeners use your stuff. So that's awesome.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that. And I really love to make it.
Yeah, they're gorgeous. I'm really a snot about art prints. I know you are too. So that works.
Well, I'm glad I live up to your standards.
Yes. And actually, Francine, who's one of our listeners in Australia, she's getting some of your PDFs because shipping to Australia obviously would be ridiculous. But she can still use them and get them printed at a printer there. So that's cool.
Yes. Yeah, I'm glad I can offer that to other countries.
Yeah. So we're actually not going to talk about art today, though, although Allison is an artist and I like to look at art, so this could be a fun conversation. But you also have, as I started to learn, you have a lot of wisdom and practice with food. You've posted videos of your Azure hauls before. You've posted ideas for meal planning, and you've posted, um, yeah, you've posted pictures of you sorting out your school schedule for the week and things like that. And I just really admire the way you choose to organize things and the way that you organize your meals and plan your food and your budget and whatnot. And so, yeah, learning from you about that today is my goal. Learning how to meal plan, keep in the budget, save money, eat good.
Yeah, I think it's become very important to me, so I can understand that it would be important to other people. Hopefully I can help you.
Yes, I hope so. I'm in desperate. Well, it's really a good way, as you've illustrated in some of your discussion on it. It's a good way to save money by planning ahead.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely something we need these days with food inflation being at 50%. And it's hitting the European audiences too. And so, yeah, we need to be planning.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think that meal planning is a way to counter that because, all around it just makes you more intentional about your food choices and you're not just wasting ingredients. And I think when you have certain meals in mind, it also makes it easier for you to find better sources for them too that can be more economical.
That's true. Well, then let's start by asking you what we ask everyone. What is the last thing you ate before we got on?
Well, so I'm trying a low histamine diet right now, just because of some health problems that I've been having. So my meals have been a little weird lately.
Nice. We love weird.
Yeah, weird is nice.
Weird is good.
It can be. So this weekend on Sunday, I made a big batch of a chicken and potato soup, and then froze it in individual portions because with low histamine, you're not supposed to eat leftovers.
Right.
You're supposed to freeze stuff right away. So I heated up some of that. And then I also made a batch of some blueberry muffins that supposedly have low histamine friendly ingredients. I'm still learning about this. So yeah. I know that I'm probably going to make mistakes, but hopefully I'm not making any right now. But I had that along with the soup. And yeah, that was my lunch.
Sounds delish. Wow.
Yeah, it was really good. I made the soup from some meat stock that I had made a couple of weeks ago, actually, just to make sure, it was cooked for the proper amount of time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, very nourishing.
I think our listeners mostly know that bone broth is something you can't do on the low histamine, but like a short 4-hour meat stock is A-okay. So,
yeah. Yep.
I like that you prepped it all so that you could eat without all that labor-intensive time.
Yeah, it makes it a lot easier to reheat because there are meals that I'm going to still be making for my family that I can't have. Mm-hmm. And so when I have a big batch of soup made, I can just thaw whatever I need while they have, whatever I've made for them. And it's just so much more convenient than trying to make 2 meals at once.
Oh, yeah. I tried that at first when I was doing gaps myself.
Yeah.
Horrible. And then I started freezing jars of soup. That was the only way.
Yes, definitely easier.
Oh, that's awesome. Well,
what about you? What did you have?
Well, when I came home just now, I had a steer in the back of my car in peace.
But not alive.
Not alive. Not this time. But a lot of things in the back of my car that I've trashed it. But this time I did okay. But Gary made espresso and then he steamed raw milk and served it to me when I came in the door. So, yeah, I guess that's What did I eat before that? Oh, before that, when I went to pick up the steer, the guy who slaughtered it and hung it for us, his farm is almost across the road from my friend's coffee stand. And her mom, it's going to get really confusing if I try to connect all of this, but her mom, who their family owns the raw milk farm that we get our milk from. So her mom bakes everything that goes into the coffee stand. So I stopped.
Ooh, that sounds good.
I stopped and got some things to bring back. And one of the things that I got that I ate in the car was a bagel.
Oh.
It was so good. Probably can't
I have not
have that on low history.
No. Well, maybe. I don't know. Like I said, I'm still learning about it, but we're gluten-free and it's really difficult to find good gluten-free bagels. So
Yeah.
At least it has been for me.
It is hard to find good bagels.
Yeah.
Like, full stop. I am really picky about bagels.
Yeah.
And
I didn't know this about you.
Well, now you know. Turns out I'm pickier about a lot of things than I thought.
You're not quite as laid back as you thought, maybe.
Yeah, I always go like, I'm so easygoing. And then somebody goes, would you like to eat this?
Yes.
And I'm like,
Food is a whole different beast, though. When it comes to pickiness, I have found.
Are we picky or are we selective? Or is there...
I think we're selective. I think we're just...
Sounds nicer.
Yeah. We're just, we appreciate quality.
Choosy. If you've been around ancestral food for 10 minutes, you know liver is a superfood. You're looking at a food packed with vitamins A, K, a broad spectrum of B vitamins, CoQ10, bioavailable iron, plus many essential minerals and more. Liver is your first stop when seeking to gain energy and restore your health. Not only is it a delicacy and staple of traditional diets, it's the first thing most animal predators go for when hunting. Are you looking for a good way to work liver into your daily life, but getting it on the table just isn't happening yet or as much as you'd like? This is where liver capsules come in. Allison and I are both supplementing our ancestral diets with liver capsules from One Earth Health. We get all the incredible benefits of liver, even when we're on the road or preparing non-liver meals for our family. And the sourcing and preparation has all been handled for us. One Earth Health produces nutritious organ capsules from 100% grass-fed New Zealand-raised cattle. Support the pod by purchasing through our link, and you'll also get 5% off and free shipping as a bonus. Go to oneearthhealth.com/ancestralkitchen or check the show notes. So, why meal planning? Why? I have never been a planner. I've always resisted meal planning. But, as we alluded to earlier, inflation is just out of sight on everything, and especially food. I've seen sort of minimized numbers on the inflation, but moms who are tracking food know that food costs have gone up as much as 50% in some places and even more in others. Mm-hmm. And you and I both live in extremely expensive states. So we feel that. And people are concerned. And without changing, like, they're not living large, but they have less to spend because their dollar is just not going very far now. So they're tightening up on the budgets. And Allison and I both feel that ancestral peasant food is not only the most economical food, but it's also really good for us, and it benefits our health and the health of our fields and our farmers and the longevity of our food production. But eating ancestrally, especially if you want to do it in a budget conscious way, does require some thought and planning ahead. Otherwise, it can be, it could be really, really expensive really quickly. So teach us about your system, which you have described to me over voice memos. I don't want to hear in person now.
Well, what you just said, I mean, I think you can look at, there's a website where you can look at what the U.S. government has calculated for current food costs. Oh. And so they have like different levels of, this is what you'd spend if you're on a low budget. This is what you'd spend on a medium budget. This is what you do on a higher budget. And it has skyrocketed just in the last couple of years. It's actually been really interesting to look at because I used to base my budget on that. And it just kept going up and up and up and up. And I was like, well, I don't think people are making more, but
you need to send me that. I'll put that in the show notes if you can send me that website.
Okay.
Because I am curious.
Yeah.
I've never seen that.
Yeah, I haven't checked it in a while, so I don't know if they're still updating it.
Maybe
they were for a long time, so I know that's what I was kind of thinking. They don't want it to be obvious. And I'm not sure exactly how accurate those numbers are. And obviously it's going to be different, if you're eating like Hamburger Helper versus you're going to, a local farmer, or you're going to a place that sells better quality meat. Every avenue of shopping is going to be very different. So it may not be exactly accurate, but it's just been interesting to look at it.
It's a baseline,
Yeah. Yeah. So I have a system. I feel like it works really well for me. And so I'm going to go through it, and hopefully it can actually, give you some ideas. Take from it what you can.
Okay. And
so I have a month.
I was going to say, you mentioned gluten-free. And then you also said low histamine. So I was going to ask you, but you kind of already answered it. Do you accommodate special diets or just anything? Go.
We do. So my husband and I are gluten-free. About 16 or 17 years ago, I was having problems with my thyroid.
Oh, okay.
And so my doctor tested for gluten, and it turned out that both he and I had a gluten sensitivity. We've never had our kids tested, but just, because it's easier all around. Yeah. And because we've been doing this for 15 years, we're just a gluten-free household.
Perfect.
My daughter also has an egg white allergy. And so anytime I make anything with eggs, I separate out the whites. And she also can't have shellfish. So, the rare times I will have a craving for crab cakes or something like that, which she doesn't like anyway, I have to make something else for her. Okay. So just a few things, but because we've been doing it for so long, it's just the norm for us. So it doesn't feel like an inconvenience.
Okay, good. Okay. That's good to hear because a lot of people hear meal planning, but then it's like just stuff that they can't do anyways. And so it feels, it can feel frustrating to try to read a lot of the mainstream advice on meal planning. So that's good to hear.
Yeah, I think if you're trying to accommodate several different diets, that can be really challenging because, like we kind of talked about a little bit ago, you feel like you have to make multiple meals for one meal. And so, like I said, what has worked for us is just having everybody eat the same thing. So I don't make a whole lot of egg dishes.
Yeah, that's logical.
Or I try to find a workaround. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, just lead me down the trail, whichever way you want to go.
Okay. So I used to do, I do monthly meal planning.
Oh, wow.
So when I started meal planning, I used to do weekly meal planning. And I think in some seasons you actually may need to do weekly meal planning, especially when it comes time for like fresh produce to be available locally. If you're getting a CSA or you're visiting a local farmer and getting your produce from them and you don't know what you're going to get until that week, although you can generally, have a general idea. But if they have something special that week, that they may have extra zucchini that's, on sale or whatever, because they have so much zucchini, you can take advantage of that. But I've actually found for me that monthly planning works better. And I learned this several years ago when I was sitting down to do my weekly meal planning. It was just taking so long. My husband actually used to make fun of me for how long it took me to do the weekly meal plan. And the program that I use to keep track of my recipes and to make grocery lists for me and to do the actual planning is called Plan to Eat.
Oh, never heard of it.
And they have an option in there where you can copy all of your recipes from a previous time period and paste them into your current time period. And so, for instance, it's March right now, so I could take all of my meals from last March and paste them into this March.
Oh, what?
And then it's all planned for me, unless I want to try new things.
Well, for those of us that are very rotational in our food, is that an app or a website or what?
It's a website, and they also have an app. So I've been using it for about 13 years. Oh. It really, really does make meal planning easier. You don't have to do it that way. You don't have to use that. I've just found it to be easier for me.
Wow, I've never even heard of it. Is it paid or is it free?
Yeah. It's paid.
Nice.
Yeah. It works out. They usually have a yearly sale for Black Friday where it's about 50% off.
What?
So it works out to like $4 a month or something like that. It's not very expensive. Yeah, it saves so much time, which, you have to factor that into a lot of things. When something takes a lot longer, that's time that is lost doing other things.
Okay, great.
So
awesome. I will find a link or get a link from you and put that in the show notes too then.
Yeah, I can send
Everybody
that to you.
who's listening right now is washing dishes, so they can't write it down. So
yes, it's plan to eat.
All right, awesome. Okay.
So that kind of springboarded me. I don't still do that because we do like to try new things, and I learn more stuff, as I'm listening to your podcast or reading things or whatever, just things that I want to try and systems that I kind of want to put in place. So I don't do it that way anymore, but it springboarded me into monthly planning because it was so much easier for me to just sit down once a month and just get it all done in one sitting and not have to worry about it every single week. Another thing was that we started buying a lot more from Azure Standard. So you mentioned my Azure hauls a little bit ago, and I know it's something that you've mentioned before that you use.
Yeah.
We've been using Azure Standard for about 12 years now, or 13 years. And we buy a large bulk of our food from them, and that delivery comes once a month. And so the week that my order is due, I take a look at their sale catalog and see what new offerings they have or what's on sale. And for the most part, because we buy bulk items from Azure, it's just more about replenishing our bulk supply. But I also like to see, is there anything we want to try that's new? Or is there anything that's expiring that we have that I need to replenish, but I also need to use up in the coming 4 weeks? And then I'll sit down and I have 7 categories, usually related to protein, and I come up with 4 meals in each category. And that gives me 28 meals that I can use over the next 4 weeks. And I don't necessarily use every single one of them because, sometimes stuff just comes up. We're out and it's late and we end up eating out. But it at least gives me 28 options for meals. And then I can also plan ahead. So if I know, I'm going to be making a big roast, I will have leftover meat or leftover beef from that. So then the following night, I can make cottage pie or a soup or whatever and keep using that meat until it's used up, and then I don't end up wasting anything. So my categories are, like I said, related to proteins. So I have beef, and then one category for a vegetarian dish. So that would be beans or eggs. And then sometimes if I have extra meat, I'll throw that in there too. And then another category for pork, chicken, fish, and then one for staples that we have every month. So we'll have roast chicken at least once a month, pizza, tacos. We like to grill burgers, that sort of stuff. And then another category for soup. And then I come up, like I said, with 4 meals that fit into each of those 7 categories. And that's 28 meals. If there's any, birthdays or holidays coming up, I'll factor those in. And then I'll lay them out in Plan to Eat or a calendar. You could also just use a calendar each week. And then I'll have one day for beef, one day for chicken, one day for pork, unless I'm using leftovers. Does that make sense so far?
I am completely shook. Why is that so simple? You have 7 categories, which all sound, they all sound super reasonable. And then you just have to come up with 4 in each, and that's the whole month. I'm not a math person, so I never noticed that.
I'm not
That's
either.
amazing. I like that they're sorted. So can you wait? Because explain it to me like I'm 5 years old. Then let's go to the beef category. So you might write down for the month roast beef, and then would you infer that you'd have leftovers and then also write cottage pie? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, you can do that. I mean, you could do that, or you could just know that it's flexible.
Yeah.
That's just a kind of an overall idea. And that way, that week you're probably going to have 2 beef dishes.
Right.
So the next week, maybe you won't have any beef. You'll just have 2 chicken dishes.
Yeah, which makes sense.
Or you could plan that, like, that week, instead of your vegetarian dish, you have cottage pie, and that's your leftover. The vegetarian day is mainly economical. It's not for any other reason. Yeah. It's just, that's a day when we're not going to use a meat, like an animal protein.
But you said also /extra meat. So you might make that roast beef and then say, wow, we had so much left over. I'm just going to sub in cottage pie instead of whatever.
Beans. Yeah. And if you made a roast chicken and you have leftover chicken, or, whatever, any, that could be, I guess that day could be like a beans, eggs /leftovers day.
Totally.
If you want to get technical.
I wrote down the categories you said, and I'm just staring at them. And I never.
Yeah, and I mean, you can obviously also come up with your own categories too, if there's other things. I'm trying to think of any other type of animal. If you have, like, lamb. A friend of mine has yak, so you could have a yak day or a lamb day, or
I'll bet that a lot of our listeners have a yak in their freezer.
Yeah. Yep. You could have a yak day.
Well, yeah, like, we're really big on turkey, so I guess turkey, maybe just have a poultry category and bird would come out of the freezer.
Yeah.
Or we've started getting into sheep, so maybe.
Yeah.
Mutton or lamb category.
Mutton day.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or just have an organ category and just blow through a bunch of organs.
Yeah, if you have, like, any that you want to use up or whatever, that could also go in there. A lot of times what we do is grind them up in our other, like, we usually don't have enough liver, so we'll grind it up into our beef and just have it with our beef or whatever.
Us too. We never have enough liver. It's insane how much you can go through once you really start.
Yeah.
And
that's one thing that doesn't stretch super well.
Yeah, that's true. Now that you've described the 7 categories, can you rewind real quick and tell me again how you were using these? You were using these to plot out your Azure orders, or we're at the meal planning week of your month.
Yeah, so I use one category for each day of the week. Okay. And then since there's 4 recipes in each category, that's 4 weeks.
What do you mean one category for each day of the week? Hold on.
So one day is beef, one day is the beans or eggs, one day is pork, one day is chicken, one day is fish, one day is a staple, one day is soup.
Okay. And then they rotate over?
Yes. Yep. For 4 weeks.
Perfect. Oh, man. I love this. Okay, keep going. I'm so excited.
I'm glad it's helpful. Sometimes I look at it, I'm like, this is so convoluted.
You warned me. You said
it's how my brain works.
You warned me. You said it's gonna sound a little convoluted, but once you settle, I can see that you settled into this and it sort of developed as you went. And I've learned that from homeschool because moms have asked me, can I watch what you're doing, or can you show me? And I'm like, well, you probably don't want to start with this, but this is where we're at.
It's a routine. And I think that, and you guys have talked about that too, like getting into routines in your kitchen with your ferments.
Yes, absolutely.
This is just another routine in my kitchen. Like, I know, okay, today we're going to have beef or whatever, and when you have a routine, there's less thinking involved.
Yeah. No, it's totally true.
Which is a good thing.
And I could see how, because when we've butchered birds, depending on what time of year it is or the breed of bird, then we've got some chickens that come out very odd sizes, large or small. And I'm looking at your chicken category and thinking, you might pull a chicken out and it's twice as big as you thought. But I could see how it really helps you plan, because this is how I estimate how many chickens I want to raise, is I estimate how many chickens I want to have per week. And if you are also maybe planning how many you're going to buy, because I know when we used to buy whole frozen chickens, that if we bought a case of them directly from the farm, we got quite a discount. So if you knew how and when you were going to use those bad boys up. Okay.
Yeah, and it's the same for beef. I mean, when we get a side of beef from our raw milk dairy once a year, and it's become such a habit for me that I know which cuts we need, which cuts we want, and then how far I can get that poundage to stretch. And if, that'll last us a whole year.
No, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know that getting a side of beef, while it is not always possible for everyone, is far and away the most economical, or one of the most economical ways to get meat, versus buying a la
Yes,
carte cuts, which, Allison has a
definitely.
teeny tiny freezer, so she can't get 300 pounds of beef at a time. But
Right. And some farmers, some ranchers will split them up for you. One that we used to be in the past, he would do an eighth of a cow.
wow.
So it's sometimes you'll find that they're
Yeah.
flexible.
Yeah. Well, she just got a bunch of sheep. She did a bunch of sheep at once, and they just made it work.
Okay.
But it really brings your per pound cost down quite a lot. So if somebody says, "Oh, you want to eat locally raised beef, grass fed, whatever, grass finished," and then you go look and see it's $14 a pound at the grocery store, you think, "Yeah, right. How's that ever going to happen?" But when you're buying it as a side and it's costing half of that, then you think, "Oh, this is so." It's even cheaper than getting the cheap stuff at the grocery store sometimes, which is insane.
Yeah, I think I calculated for our last one that I picked up in November for everything. So ground beef, filet mignon, for roasts, everything, it was $6 a pound.
That's insane. And so when somebody says, you're the bourgeois for recommending eating off of a local farm, it's because they're looking at the tiny little cuts that the farmer has to, once you get into the butchering world, you see why the price gets so high to sell the a la carte pieces. But then you also see why the price is so low when you're buying a large chunk of cow. And I think Allison and I are going to be doing I don't know what day this episode is going out, but we're doing or have done an episode where we're going to talk a bit more about that to help people plan. But then you say, I don't know how anybody could afford to buy beef at the grocery store.
Yeah, really. I mean, if we run out, which we don't normally do, but if we run out, I literally cringe when I have to buy it at the store, just because I'm like, I know I could get this. Fortunately, our raw milk dairy also offers a la carte options, which it's not as cheap as buying a whole side, but it's still better than going to the store.
It'll patch you through. That's the way I think of it. We tend to buy everything like you do, also in bulk, and every once in a while we have to buy small bundles, but it doesn't absolutely break us because it's so rare.
Right, exactly.
How do you feel about our food world? Do you want to see change like we do? If so, head over to patreon.com/Ancestral Kitchen Podcast and help support us to get this work out as far and wide as we can. To say thank you, we've got a host of extra ancestral food material to share with you. You can connect with us more deeply via our Patreon exclusive podcasts, our after show chats, our dedicated forum, and our ancestral food get-togethers. And there's a library of downloads that will support you in your own kitchen. By joining, you'll be really helping us to continue making this podcast and to focus on having a bigger impact, reaching more people, making a greater difference, so we can move together towards the future food world we all want to see. We've got 4 levels of support to suit different pockets. Check out www.patreon.com/Ancestral Kitchen Podcast for all the details.
Okay, so you've got your categories, got your 28 meals. Is that it?
Well, then I plan them out. So I do it in Plan to Eat, but you could also just do it in a calendar. And for side dishes, I usually like those to be kind of flexible. So far I've only done the main course. There are certain side dishes that I just make on a regular basis. So it's very simple things like roasted broccoli, or we really love the recipe from Nourishing Traditions for carrots vichy, cucumber salad, just different things that we have on a regular basis. And then when it comes to like CSA season or gardening season, if I want to substitute or add something to that based on what my farmer has, then I can do that. Otherwise, we'll just have a salad with it with some homemade dressing and call it good. That's our meal. So I'll kind of look at what our main course is for each day and just come up with a tentative side dish for that. And that's just for suppers. So our other meals are very a lot simpler. We have the same thing every single day for breakfast. We have scrambled eggs. I make chicken sausage for my daughter from Chicken Thighs, which I do buy those in the package because it's not very economical to hack up a bunch of chickens just for their thighs.
No, not really. I have done it.
So we have, I'm sure you have.
It's a lot of work.
I'm unfortunately not growing my own or raising my own birds. So maybe someday. We'll have scrambled eggs or chicken sausage. Either muffins. I make a soaked oat and buckwheat muffin. That I soak in kefir it was for all of us until I did this low histamine thing, or oatmeal, and then homemade kefir or yogurt. And those are our meals, our breakfasts during the week. And then on the weekends, we have a special breakfast in rotation that my husband makes. So he'll make pancakes or cottage potatoes, and then we'll have like bacon and scrambled eggs. And I make a soaked apple apple oat dish. So that's in rotation. So again, it's just another routine that keeps us from having to think about things. And then lunch is staples that we just have every week. So things like tuna, or I'll make ham and cheese melts for the kids, or just cheese, like sliced raw cheese, and then whatever we have that can be used as a side for that, or leftovers. So those meals are pretty casual. It's more, most of the planning goes into the suppers.
Something you said in there so casually, you said it keeps us from having to think about things. That is worth $1 million right there, because how many jokes do you see out there about, I didn't know that being an adult just meant I had to come up with dinner every day for the rest of my life. And,
exactly.
I have literally stood in the kitchen in the morning and I just feel like my brain is going to break thinking, what are we going to eat for breakfast? And it's such a silly, it's like, I don't know, make oatmeal, get over yourself. Mm-hmm. But my brain, it's just so many decisions to make. And is there a way we can just log into your plan to eat, like, follow this Instagram influencer and see what she's eating? Your breakfast sound very similar to ours. It's just that I have to think about it every time. And it's wasting a lot of dopamine for me. And I'm already low on that half the time.
Well, something you've talked about in the past is how you like pre-made an egg dish, like a baked egg dish. And then that would last you through the week. And I've tried to do that in the past as well, because that really appeals to me. Just being able to reheat something in the toaster oven or whatever. But my family's not a fan of it. So
well,
if your family likes that, do that too.
This is the weird thing. I think things through when we have a big event, butchering or canning or something, and I think, won't be able to stand in the kitchen, so I think it through. And then in the moment, I think, wow, this is so amazing to have this already thought through. What a life! Mm-hmm. And so you say we eat the same thing for breakfast every day, but then you listed like 10 different things. So you mean, we have like 4 or 5 breakfasts, and you don't make all of that every day.
Just for Monday through Friday, mm-hmm. we have the eggs or the chicken sausage, the like soaked oats or the muffins, or yogurt or kefir, depending on who is eating, because everybody likes something different. So those are just the options. Okay. And then on the weekends is when we do the rotation of the bigger things like pancakes or cottage potatoes or the soaked oat apple. Mm-hmm.
Is that the cottage
that I make?
The cottage potatoes from Nourishing Traditions? Because that's
no, we haven't tried that one, and I think you talked about that in your favorite recipes from Nourishing Traditions, and I've been wanting to try it. We should do that one of these weekends. It was from a different cookbook.
How dare you?
We're going to try that one. I know. I'm such a traitor.
Get off this podcast right now.
Sorry.
I'm just kidding.
For mentioning another cookbook.
It's fine. We're all kind of like cookbook addicts over here, so it's fine. Okay.
I love it too. My copy's very battered.
I really I feel like in a way, even if I just planned the breakfast or I just planned the dinners, already my brain would have pressure off of it
Mm-hmm.
in a really big way. And something that Gary was telling me the other day, he said, what our weakness is using what we have, because we forget what we have, or we don't get it out in time, or we get it out too early, or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if I was doing your system, that would not be happening so much.
Yeah, I mean, it really does help to know what's coming up. So like on Sundays, I'll look at what we have coming up that week for meals. And if it's, there aren't any schedule conflicts that have come up since I made the meal plan, I'll just pull out all of the proteins, the meats that we need that week, and stick them in a bowl in my fridge and let them thaw. And then I have them. I mean, yeah, there are definitely the times where I'm like, I forgot to take out, whatever. Fish is a hard one because we have fish on Fridays. And so I'm often thawing fish in ways that I probably shouldn't be. Nobody's died yet. On like Friday afternoon.
Nice.
That's probably something I need to work on, but otherwise the rest of it is usually thawed when it needs to.
We're recording on Tuesday. So as
Yes.
a for instance, do you already know what you're eating for dinner tonight?
Actually, I forgot.
Wow.
just because it's been kind of a hectic week, but I know at one point this week we were going to have a sausage and potato casserole, and I already have everything for that. So if I need to make that tonight, because I feel like I just need something simpler tonight, then I'll probably end up making that. Last night, I actually had another podcast interview yesterday for homeschooling, and it was just a really full day. And I had a chicken curry that I had made last month. I double batched it.
Oh,
so I'd made two of it and froze half of it. And so I just pulled that out yesterday morning, and all I had to do was make the rice, and that was our supper last night.
Wow.
So, yeah, you caught me off guard with that.
Sorry. We usually ask people what they just ate, not what they're about to eat.
Right, exactly. I was prepared for that question, but
yeah. It just came to my mind. I thought, wow, interesting. I know what we're having, burgers, because there's a cow on the table.
And that's right. That's something that we have. Like it's funny that you should say that, because I think when we went to go pick up our beef, that's what we had that night was burgers, because it was like, okay.
Kind of like celebrating.
So,
We haven't had beef in a hot minute. So celebrating having the beef back in the house.
Yeah, yay iron.
Yeah, yay iron. I always try to make butchering days sort of like a festival day a little bit with the kids. Like we bought the bananas and strawberries that Adelaide was eating when you and I got on. Sort of like a special, we're butchering snack.
Yes. The celebration. It's a holiday.
Yeah. Okay, so
we have
Thanksgiving. So where are we in this journey through the meal planning? So you've described to us the pattern, 7 categories, 28 dinners, and then you roughed out your breakfast and then your lunches. Your lunches sound a lot like ours. Like we do a lot of leftovers for lunch, and we do a lot of, this cottage pie could actually just be turned into a soup or something, weird lunches, I guess. And then Allison and I are both very similar to you with the sides. We don't really plan out our sides. She typically makes a salad, or she'll have spelter rye and they'll put that on the side with lard spread on it or something. Similar for us, depending on the time of year, like you said, the cucumbers, if it's the summer, maybe cucumber and tomato salad or something. But yeah, we always have sauerkraut, obviously.
Yeah, we usually have a ferment with it too. I think that's like in my mind, that's sort of default. So I never plan it or.
Yeah, I'm sure all of our listeners are already like, obviously we have sauerkraut on the table. Don't even need
Yes,
to
just, on everyone, just put a little asterisk. There's a ferment.
Yeah, no more would we write it down than we would write down, be sure to put forks on the table.
Right, exactly. Yes.
Okay, so you plan this monthly, but your app gives you the ability to kind of look back at last March, say, and mimic it if that works for you, and it saves your recipes or something, you said?
Yeah, it saves the recipes. So I have all of my recipes in there, and then I can just drag and drop
Wow.
a recipe into a day. And then it generates a grocery list for me that week. So when I'm sitting down to do my Azure order once a month, I can actually generate a grocery list for the next 4 weeks. And so I can look through and like, okay, what do I need to order from Azure? What do I need to make sure I have in the freezer from our cow or, chickens or whatever? And what I'm probably going to have to like supplement from the local store.
Perfect. So you had told me something about that you felt like meal planning makes it easier for you to be able to shop from local farms. And I can see why, because also as a small time farmer, when people know what they're doing, you can plan ahead a lot better because if you kind of place your order with this farmer every year or whatever, then it's very nice to be able to plan around that and know what you need to raise for your customers. Could you kind of give me, I'm the person that likes pictures, obviously, that's how we met. So could you just describe for me like a week with your plan? And I know you have days when you're out, and I know you homeschool, and you're a big time speaker going to these homeschool convention things.
Not a big time. No, not at all.
Sold out stadiums and all of that. So,
right. That's me.
Obviously. So describe a week implementing your plan and a week that includes your plan getting screwed up, because that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's fair. So a week where it goes well. On Sundays, like I said, I pull out all of the meats that will need thawed for that week. If there's any day that we're going to have some kind of rice or something, I'll just make a note of that on the calendar, knowing that I need to soak it the night before. And then I'll look and see, like I said, if there's any sort of schedule conflicts that have come up since I made the meal plan. So like if, I've planned a roast chicken that needs like 4 hours to roast on a day where we're going to be going to our nature group, obviously I can't do that. So I'll switch that out for like a crock pot meal or something like that. Charlotte Mason. And then
what's that? So Charlotte Mason. Nature group.
Yes, our homeschool nature group. Or, whatever, if there's an appointment that comes up or something like that. And then every day it's pretty much set for me. I know that some people like to I can't do this, chop up all their veggies in advance. So like Sunday afternoon, they'll just have a major chopping session and have everything prepped for the week. But I've never been able to do that. So if anybody out there can do that, props to them.
Props to them. You are also planning your homeschool week on Sundays, right?
Yeah, on Sundays.
I can see how that kind of takes the place of chopping veggies.
Yeah, I don't know that I would do that anyway. To a certain extent, I know this probably sounds kind of weird, but sometimes when I get ready to make our supper, in some ways it can be a little cathartic because I'm just sitting there chopping vegetables.
I understand.
And it doesn't take a whole lot of thought. So it's almost like a time where I can kind of just not have to think about much, or I can process things or whatever. What I've been doing lately is listening to audiobooks while I cook supper. I've listened to your podcast also while I cook supper. So yeah, so I'll at the end of the day, usually around 5 o'clock, sometimes later, I'll start making supper. And, it does take time. This way of cooking it's not quick. Yeah. So it can take an hour and a half to make supper, but I've just accepted that, that's that time that I'm going to have to do that every day. And then it's on the table. And if the week goes well, that's what every day looks like. If I have a crockpot meal, I put that together in the morning, usually while I'm making breakfast. I'll just chop everything for that, throw it in the crockpot, and then it's done by the end of the day. So yeah, that's a good week.
I really like that. And it does take time, as you said. But if you don't, I do find one of the things that I have analyzed about myself that I love the most about holidays is that I have planned what I'm going to make and I have all the puzzle pieces. And in my head, all I have to do is just enjoy the immense pleasure of putting them together. And it doesn't feel like I'm thinking. And it is things that I make over and over. You know, like on Christmas, I always make this. On Thanksgiving, I always make that, or whatever. So it feels repetitive and calming. And I can see how that would happen with this meal plan. So you're not making 100 decisions. When you get out all your meat on Sundays, do you have one bin in the freezer or fridge where you put it all? Or just kind of cram it into pans, or what do you do?
No, I have a bowl in the bottom of the fridge. I actually got the idea from I don't know if you ever heard of the site Nom Nom Paleo.
Yes, I have. I think
so Michelle Tam, I think she has more than one. I used to be really into paleo, not anymore, but when I read her site a lot, and she has, I think she calls it like the protein bowl or something like that. And she puts all of her meats in there, and I thought that is a great idea. So yeah, I got into that.
It's those little simple things that just streamline things. And
and if you have it, like I said, if you have it part of your routine and it's something that you do every week, then it just becomes a habit. Maybe you should say her name again.
And do you? Okay, this is not something I was intending to ask, but now I'm curious because it happens to me. You get something out and you have a plan for it, and then somebody else uses it. Does that ever happen to you? Or does everybody know that you have a plan so they don't mess with your...
I'm pretty much the only person cooking suppers in my house, so that generally doesn't happen.
And I can see that if everybody knows you have a plan, then they would say, you know, is there a plan for this, or can just anybody eat it?
Yeah. And I have a little schedule on our fridge of like our chores for the week, and it has a place on it for our meals too. So most of the time I forget to write them in there, but when I do, everybody knows what's coming up.
Bring to mind your kitchen. Now imagine it full of expert women fermenters ready to teach you everything they know. Vegetables, salumi, drinks, kefir, dairy, sourdough, vinegar, koji, and much more. The Fermentation School is just that, online, in your kitchen, whenever you want. World-leading female educators sharing their incredible experience in video courses that will guide you step by step through your next fermentation project. Ancestral Kitchen Podcast has teamed up with the school to offer its 60 plus courses to you at a 10% discount. When you say yes, you'll also be supporting the work Andrea and I do as you skill up. Go check out their courses via the link in the show notes. I'm betting there's something there that's going to get you really excited. Happy fermenting.
Yeah. And you mentioned that the planning or the work is kind of cathartic and you listen to a book or a podcast or something. So do you have your kids in the kitchen with you much when you're cooking, or is that just not something you're doing right now?
Sometimes I do. My daughter likes to help sometimes. There's actually one of the breakfast things that we rotate she likes to make.
Cool.
The oat to apple bake thing that we make.
I want that, whatever that is. It sounds really good.
I'll send it to you. It's really
like you're going to send me the food, or you're just going to tell me how to do it?
I could try sending you the food, but it might be kind of messy by the time it gets there. But we could try it. You know, you never know.
Is it a recipe I could give to the patrons? Is that like shareable?
I got the recipe from it was kind of funny. I was looking for an oat bake type thing that didn't have eggs in it for my daughter. So it's actually from a vegan website, but I've modified it to soak the oats, and I use kefir, so it's it's not vegan. So So I can put it together and give it to you. Yeah,
That would
definitely.
be amazing. Do you
Yeah.
do much in the way of canning or getting bulk veggies and freezing them? I know you alluded to buying half a cow. I think you've also told me that you buy pork in bulk. How do these factor into your plan? And you did talk about the Azure ordering, but you mentioned, when you know your year ahead, then you can buy. Like if anybody's bought a side of beef, then they know you have to tell them, I want X pounds into ground. I want X number of roasts. Can you tell me how you know that? And then do you do any of the other things for bulk food?
Well, for the beef, I just kind of know approximately what we use in a year. Just because we've been doing it for so long.
Yeah.
So
I always go off of 50 weeks. I don't even do 52 because, like you said, sometimes you eat at your mom's or something happens, But I always think, okay, 50 weeks, I want 2 chickens a week or whatever. That equals 100 birds or something.
Yeah, or you want like a pound of ground beef a week plus 1 or 2 roasts a month, or however many, like if you want to grill steaks like once or twice a month or whatever, how that works out. You can kind of get an idea of what your family might use. But basically, I just use the same cut sheet every year.
No, it's perfect. Take the decision making out of it. There's too much decision making days. You have to make
it
so
works
many
really
decisions.
well.
Like, am I going to go at this light or am I going to wait? I mean, just zillions of decisions. Am I going to answer this phone call or am I going to ignore Rebecca again?
Oh,
I'm just kidding. Never calls.
I don't call you, so
I haven't had the opportunity. But do you can much?
Well, you and I have talked about this so much. I really want to. And I actually bought a pressure canner about 1.5 years ago, and I taught myself how to can as far as I could. And I canned 1 little jar of carrots that I was so proud of myself because I didn't, I don't have anybody to teach me. And I haven't done anything since.
That's fine.
So it's on the horizon.
Okay,
I really do want to do it. But I just haven't been able to get to that. But I do freeze quite a bit. If we have a surplus of anything from a local farm or whatever, if Azure's having a sale like they have, we really love their juice grade apples.
Oh,
and so we'll dehydrate those or make them into applesauce. They actually still have them. I think they're still selling the juice grade apples. Even I know it's not this late in the year. So, or I guess early. In the
what
year.
are we now? I don't even know.
Yeah. So there's, Azure really has like some good sales on produce if you can buy it in bulk. One thing that I've really wanted to start looking into is different ways to store root vegetables like potatoes and other things, alliums, onions, beets, all that stuff. So I can buy it in bulk, whether locally or from Azure, and then have that, because it's really just that whole idea. That's one of the things that I recommend the most to people is buying as much as you can in bulk, because it's so nice to not only save the money, but when you run out of something in your kitchen, knowing that you can just like go to wherever you store your food and basically shop from that and just pull it out and it's there, and you don't have to run to the store and spend a lot of money and,
feel taken advantage of because you got it in the wrong season or whatever.
Right.
When you said your cut sheet, you were talking about your cut sheet, and you said that I want 1 to 2 roasts a month. It's funny because before I would have thought, oh, I didn't need way more than that. But then when you say you want 4 beef meals a month, then I'm thinking, oh, yeah, you're really putting things in perspective for me.
Well, it's all relative. I mean, that was just an example.
No, but
if I'm only having 1 beef dish a week, then obviously I wouldn't need 4 pounds of ground beef per month plus the roast. But it is a way to break it down.
Yeah, no, I really like it. I really, really like it.
Yeah.
And you already answered my question about, do you repeat meals or patterns? Like do you always do Taco Tuesday or something? And you said you always have fish on Fridays and then
Mhm.
special breakfast on the weekends.
Yeah. Otherwise, the repetition is mainly in the protein, not necessarily the dishes. Honestly, I don't think I can get away with having tacos every Tuesday with my
I probably
family.
couldn't either.
So
They'd probably rebel. But the
yeah.
way you have it set up, even if you're repeating your categories, you're still not coming across them that often. Because,
Mhm.
I am shooketh. And do you ever make something and your family just goes, no? Like you said, the egg casserole.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I do like to try new recipes pretty often. And if they don't like it, they're pretty vocal about that. I mean, we do have a rule that no matter what, unless it's like absolutely horrible and it's making you retch, you have to eat it. But they'll let me know if they don't like it. And that has definitely happened.
Did I ever tell you? Maybe this story came out of Colorado. I don't know. My mom told us a story when we were a kid about cowboys. And the way the Cowboys had set this plan up is a joke. It's probably not a real story. But the way the Cowboys set their meals up was, one cowboy would cook until somebody complained, and then the person who complained had to take over, and then so on. And
Oh, I like
so, well, it was a pretty good plan, she tells us, until the Cowboys caught on, and the one guy who was cooking was just cooking forever, and nobody would complain because they didn't want the job. And so then he poured salt into the beans and made them really horrible. And so they're eating dinner, and one of the cowboys goes, "Boy, these beans are salty." And the guy who cooked it looks at him all hopeful, and the guy goes, "But they sure are good." No
Yeah,
complaining.
I think maybe we need to incorporate that rule into my family. That'd be great.
I remember complaining about food one time when I was a kid, and we were eating macaroni, and I said, like, "Oh, this isn't very cheesy," or something. I said, "There's not very much cheese in these," and my dad said, "Well, you don't have very much manners," or something. Never complained again.
Wow, I have asked my kids not to complain, but it's they're still they still do.
That's learning. It's a learning process.
Yeah.
I mean, it is good to know what people like.
Yes.
That's helpful information.
Yeah, and I don't want them to ever get to the point where they're like, well, I can't say anything bad about this, even though I absolutely hate it, because she's going to get mad at me.
Yeah.
So I try to keep that in mind. But sometimes I'm like, I just spent an hour and a half cooking this.
How dare you?
Yeah.
And so you also answered my other question, which was, do you meal prep in the beginning of the week or do you prep at the moment? Which I like that you prep in the moment. I have never figured out why people say, just take an hour every Sunday. And I'm like, it takes me 7 hours, bro.
Yeah, no, it would take me a lot longer than an hour.
I'm not doing this in an hour.
Yeah. And I mean, there's other times where, I'm making sauerkraut or I'm making curtido or, some kind of like beet kvass, some kind of ferment where it's like, I don't want to chop up more vegetables. I just do the ferment. That's it.
Yeah.
Just leave it at that.
Yeah. Or like you said, something unexpected, somebody brings you a cabbage. So that day you chop it up in a cabbage salad or something.
Right. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So I'm just going to recap. Okay. So you make your 7 categories. Well, they're already made.
Mm-hmm.
You peg 4 meals into each one. You disperse them across the month as makes sense. You use your app to pull up your recipes and to even repeat throughout the month things that are seasonal for you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You place your Azure orders once a month, and you kind of base your meals on their sale catalog, which is really good, actually. They send it with your orders.
Mm-hmm.
You make your cut list or you're a farmer. And if you have a CSA or something, that probably ends up in a lot of your sides, right? Like this fresh.
Yes. Yeah. Mainly that's where the veggies mainly end up is on the sides.
Roasted broccoli and whatnot. And then your breakfasts, you pretty much have the same thing during the week. And then you have a couple special rotations on the weekend. And then lunch is bits and bobs from the fridge, leftovers, things like that.
Yeah, or any other proteins that we have on hand, hard-boiled eggs or cheese or...
And then you make the meals. You don't prep them all, but you thaw all the meat on Sunday. You get everything out as you review your list.
Mm-hmm.
You adjust your list based on, the chiropractor appointment moved and now I'll be home late. I'm going to do the crock pot or whatever. And if it's a crock pot meal, you start it in the morning.
Yeah.
This does not sound that hard.
Yeah, and one thing also I just want to add that has been really, really beneficial is what we did yesterday. So if I look at the meal plan and there's meals on there that I know are ones we like and that they freeze well, I'll double it and I'll make, a double batch and freeze half of it and stick it in the freezer. I just got, have you ever heard of super cubes?
Yes, actually, we just had a whole conversation about that in the Discord.
Yeah, so you could totally freeze things without the super cubes. I've done it for a long time and it's been fine. But they really do make it so much more convenient.
Yeah, Allison has something, I think a different brand. And she really likes them and she makes me want them.
Yeah. Yeah, so you can freeze them into individual portions, like 2 cup size, 1 cup size, half cup size, whatever. That's actually how I did my soup today for lunch.
And that saves on
and so when you double batch...
It saves your containers because it's a great way to use up all your jars is to try to put a bunch of stuff in the freezer.
Yes. Yeah. So you can put them in like Ziploc bags. I like to put them, I have one of those food savers. Mm-hmm. So a couple of weeks ago, we have something that we call sick soup. And
soup?
It's just sick soup. Yeah. So it's a specific soup that I make when somebody's sick. And I make a big batch of it and freeze it so that, when somebody's sick, including if it's me, we have soup on hand. And I used the super cubes and then I vacuum sealed the little cup sizes and using my food saver. And it's pretty awesome.
I want these toys.
If you can double batch, if you can make 2 batches of something and then freeze it, that is an excellent way to save yourself from going, ordering out or starving or whatever.
Yeah, since we can't order out here, starving is our only option. So the super cubes shall save us.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, those are like silicone, right? So you can push the frozen thing out.
Yes.
And
they pop right out.
It thaws a lot faster when it's not in a glass jar, too.
Yes, definitely. And you don't have to worry because I've frozen stock in glass jars in the past, and it's just like I don't know.
It's very inefficient on space too because it's all round.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, wow. This is so wonderful. Okay, I have another question I want to ask, but I'm going to save it for the after show. Kind of Charlotte Mason-y.
Okay.
So patrons jump over to the private podcast and you'll hear a couple more minutes of just gloriousness. So this all sounds so good. I'm going to check out your website that you talked about because I am very curious about the fact that I can save recipes in there. And
it's really handy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I can see how you say it's useful. You could do it without it, but also you're just sparing yourself the time and shuffling through stacks of paper or whatever. It's nice.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And you can import recipes from websites, which just makes it easier. It's just, you don't have to copy anything.
You like that?
Yeah.
Well, Rebecca, is there anything else you want to say about this meal planning?
I don't think so. I hope it's been helpful. Like I said, it feels a little convoluted to me, but again, that's how my brain works. So I hope that there's hopefully something that people can take from it.
Yes, I really like the repetition, and I still see the variation within repetition because even if you had cottage pie 12 times a year, if you're making it with what you got in your CSA, it would be different every single time.
Yeah, that's true. Yep, different vegetables.
Yeah. So I just see decisions made ahead of time, which is, who was it, Patton or some general who said if you fail to plan, you plan to fail or something. Abraham Lincoln or Aristotle or somebody said.
One of those guys, yeah. Sounds like all of them.
Yeah, they probably were sitting around and like, let's say this.
Yes.
Well, I like it. I like it a lot. And just reiterate for everybody where we can find you online.
Well, my website is ahumbleplace.com. And I actually also have, it's something that you've mentioned before on your podcast, so I'm just going to mention it again. But for any fellow homeschoolers or people who just want to help their kids with eating traditional foods, I have a printout or a free printable for the Nourishing Traditions Cookbook for Children. And it's just basically a schedule to go through the whole book with your kids and allow them to cook with you and learn those methods.
Oh, yes.
So I have that on my website.
I did want to say that, because that is really cool. I'll link it in the show notes so people can go find it.
And then on Instagram, which I'm not incredibly active on there, but I do post like once a week or twice a week, is A Humble Place.
Perfect. And we'll link that in the show notes too. So, if you're driving, don't take your hands off the wheel. It's already there. We wrote it down for you.
Or don't be unsafe.
Don't be. Wow. I love it. Oh, this was so fun, Rebecca. I love visiting with you so much. And I am so happy that I just got a little insight into your brain. And
well, I'm glad I could share it.
All right. Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. We'd love to continue the conversation. Come find us on Instagram. Andrea's at Farm and Hearth and Allison's at Ancestral_Kitchen. Until next time, we both wish you much fun, exploration, and satisfaction in and out of the kitchen.